now, they'll just be able to catch up on what we're talking about. So let's get started. So thank you everyone for joining us today. So today we are running a webinar on education and teaching here at the University of Tasmania. So we've got up to an hour, but we might not take that long, see how efficient we can be. But there will be time for questions at the end, and I'll go through a little bit of housekeeping in a second. But just to introduce myself, my name is Charlotte Walker, and I work here in our domestic future students team based in Sandy Bay in Hobart. I also have with me Twee here, who's my colleague who works within our international space as well. So we will be able to handle inquiries from domestic and international prospective students. But before we go any further, we do need to do our acknowledgement of country. So we acknowledge the Palawa Pakana people of Lutruwita, traditional owners of the lands upon which we live and we work. We pay respects to elders past and present as the knowledge holders and sharers, and we deeply respect their place in education and their place in passing on knowledge to future generations. We honour their strong culture and their knowledge as vital to the self-determination, the well-being and resilience of their communities. And we stand for a future that profoundly respects and acknowledges Aboriginal perspectives, culture, language and history. So today we'll cover a few dot points. I'm just going to handle the admin at the beginning, and then I'll be able to hand over to our experts that we are here to hear from today. So we'll have a look at why study at UTAS, but really why become a teacher, a couple of the course options that we offer here at UTAS, how placement works. We'll go through a little bit of how to apply, and then there is space for Q&A at the end. Down the bottom of your screen, you will see the little Q&A box there. So we should have everyone on mute, so we won't have people speaking questions, but please put your questions into the chat as we go. Twee and myself may be able to answer those questions as the webinar goes, or we might get to them at the end. So please feel free to put them in as the question comes, or you can wait to the Q&A at the end if you prefer. So why study at the University of Tasmania? We think it's a great place to study. We think we are located in one very wonderful place of the world down here in Tasmania, but we also are co-located in Sydney, not for education, but we offer nursing and paramedicine in Sydney. We also offer our courses online, so you can study this course from anywhere in Australia or the world, theoretically. We have above average student satisfaction across the university, so 82% satisfaction compared to 80% nationally. So that's taken from the graduate surveys that are done at the end of every year across Australia. So we're very proud of those numbers, and we're very proud of our employment numbers as well. But we also are a very, I believe, supportive and caring university. I know in my role that we are very supportive in how we help students make their decisions and transition to university, and the support does not stop once you become a student at UTAS. So there's lots of support for people while you're in this decision-making phase you are in now, but also once you become a student. It's something that we hold very dearly here at UTAS. And of course, we're #1 in the world for climate action. So a big part of the university is our work on climate change and climate action and sustainability. So who we have with us today is, and these are the experts who are going to be speaking to their courses to you today. We have Louise, Robin, Vaughan and Robin, 2 Robins today. So we'll be able to go through the experts and they'll be able to speak to what they believe in their course, why you should study education and what sort of experiences you're going to get out of that. So I'm going to be quiet now. We're going to hand over to Robin, I believe, and let's learn about education and teaching at UTAS.
Okay, welcome everybody. And this slide really tells us why people choose teaching. And I can't begin, I want to talk about this slide for half an hour. I can't begin to tell you the wonderful experiences and situations I found myself in through being a teacher. Clint here is talking about the M-Teach, tells us that he chose teaching because of how important it is to develop relationships in those important years and how teachers can help and support you well beyond high school. So many times people come up to you and say, you know, you taught me in whatever, whenever. I can't tell you what a great choice that you're here tonight and that you're going to follow through and enroll in an education degree. So that's just an example from Clint. Robin, I'm handing over to you now. The next slide, Charlotte.
Thanks, Robin. So I agree, Robin. There are many, many reasons, and we've just got a few of them on the screen here for you. Certainly, teaching isn't easy, as it says there. It's hard work, but it's incredibly rewarding work. And I think anything that reaps reward does take hard work. It takes dedication, and it takes a really positive attitude about the work that you do and a valuing of the work that you do as an educator working with young people. So that is one really good reason, the positive impact that you can have on the lives of the future generations and communities. And we do work across communities as educators. I say educators, by the way, because we have educators who work not just as teachers, but also as education support people, which I'm going to talk to you a bit more a little bit later on. With this degree, you can teach anywhere in Australia. In fact, in lots of parts of the world as well, but particularly across Australia. So we're an accredited, our courses are accredited and can take you into private schools, public schools on all of our states and territories. And job stability and security. So once you become a teacher, there's certainly a demand for quality educators at the moment, probably now more so than ever. And you know, so with hard work and dedication to getting your degree, you can also consider yourselves in a good, solid position for maintaining that role into the future. So they're just three key positives about becoming a teacher for you. Thanks, Charlotte.
Okay, when you join our course, you'll find that there's different types of learning activities that we have organised for you. At Launceston or Hobart, depending on which course, so the Masters of Teaching is taught out of Hobart and the others are taught out at Launceston, we have some in-person classes where you work with your peers and the academic staff members. We also have self-directed activities. So we have an online site which has a whole range of learning activities that you work your way through, meeting certain deadlines along the way, but they are self-directed. So it's sort of a mixture of this online and this physical classes. We also have placements. So you'll spend time in schools learning with a teacher how to teach. Those have to be done in Australia. They can't be done overseas. And we have assessments as you would expect at university, but they're different types of assessments. So we might have quizzes, might have presentations, might have essays. It might be a practical activity that you need to do in the classroom situation. So a range of assessment tasks which are all guiding you towards being a teacher. You may have noticed that we have different sort of ways of describing things here. We have units, which are like the little bits within the course. So you do a number of units to get your qualification as a teacher. So if you see the word units, that's what it means. It's like one part of the whole course. Okay, thank you. Or shall I talk to the next one?
Let's see what it is. Okay, I've spoken. So we've got four different ways, and they look a little bit across the lifespan of the child. The first one is the one Robin will talk about, associate degree, and that's education support. Then we've got early childhood education, traditionally is up to 8 years of age, can be from birth. Primary teacher, which is those primary years, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then secondary teacher, which is the secondary years, as we know. And there are lots of different pathways through those that I think we can move on to, Charlotte.
Okay, thanks, Charlotte. So this is where I mentioned a moment ago that we have courses for educators who might not necessarily want to be a classroom teacher or working on the sports field with children and that sort of educator. We also have people who work in education support. So that's for people who are interested in becoming teacher assistants or teacher aides. They're often referred to, integration aides. We also have a role here in Tasmania, if you happen to be local, called an education support specialist, which sits somewhere between a teacher assistant and a classroom teacher role. It just has a high level of responsibility and engagement with other practitioners in the planning for learning situation, that sort of thing, which is an ongoing permanent position. So there's some of the types of roles. We also have in this course a lot of people who are homeschooling their children and want to just further their skills and their knowledge about how to do that in the most effective way. So the associate degree is out there for a range of people to access and provides opportunities for a range of people. As it says there on the screen, you can, if you study full-time, which is 4 of those units that Louise just described, 4 units per semester for 4 semesters will give you 2 years of full-time study, or you can study 1, 2 or 3 units a semester across a maximum of 5 years to complete the associate degree. If you come into the associate degree with prior study, a certificate 3 or higher in education support, and at the same time have some ongoing work experience in education support, you can actually apply for credit for up to 2 of the first year foundational units. So rather than doing 16 units, you may be approved to do 14 units across those 2 years, depending on what subject areas you've studied as to form that Cert 3 or higher. The course is fully online, so you don't have classes to attend per se. It is all operated through our online learning platform, Milo. So it's very flexible in that sense, and it can be studied from anywhere. In the second year of the associate degree, in the final semester, you have an option to choose what we call guided electives. So they're a set of specially chosen units of work that you opt into to follow a specialisation course. So in education support, we have specialisations in early childhood education support, Indigenous education support, and inclusive education support. And the other thing with this particular course, it can provide a nice pathway for those people who aren't quite sure that they want to commit to a full bachelor's course, but they want to begin a study pathway, so to speak, while also gaining some experience as a teacher assistant or integration aide, for example, complete this course and then down the track change to a Bachelor of Education or continue on with a Bachelor of Education. And in that case, you could potentially get up to 12 units of credit from what you've studied in the associate degree to carry over into one of those bachelor's courses. It just depends which of the bachelor courses, whether it be primary, early childhood or health and PE, as to how many units were credited across. And you're going to hear more about those bachelor's programs in just a moment. The other thing to let you know about really briefly before I move on is that we also have an undergraduate certificate in education support, which is 4 units out of the associate degree, and you get to choose from a range of associate degree units for your undergrad certificate. I believe, Charlotte, that there's going to be more information about that in another session about all of our undergraduate certificate offerings. So I won't say too much more than that, other than it's a really nice way if you're not certain that you want the associate degree, if you don't know whether education support's quite right for you, or if you're not even sure about university and you just want to find out what it is to be a university student without too much of a commitment, a 4-unit undergraduate certificate such as the one in education support's a really nice place to start, especially knowing that if you do decide to continue on, those 4 units will be credited into the associate degree for you. So that's something worth thinking about as well. Thank you, Charlotte.
Hi, this is the program that I'm the program director of. This is Bachelor of Education Primary, and you can choose to add in a graduate certificate in early childhood. So it's minimum 4 years, up to 9 years. You can study this in Launceston or the Cradle Coast or online. There's a lot of placement. Once you enter the school system for teaching, you have to meet standards that are set by the federal government, and that involves a lot of supervised teaching practice in schools. So it's 110 days, but if you do the maths and put that across 4 years, it's not that much. You can be, should you choose to do both of those elements, you are qualified really from 0 to 5 or 5 to 8-year-olds. The entry requirements are similar to those before, the TCE or equivalent, university prep program. Some universities study already a Cert 4 or higher. And getting into teaching, again, it's a federal framework. You have to have a personal competency statement. And there's a land tide as well, which is a literacy and numeracy test. It's quite a busy course, lots and lots, 4 units a semester for 8 semesters, but they progress in complexity, and they support you into your placements as well. There's not very much choice for electives in the course. There's not we tend to have to meet up in national standards. So you move through the degree, you're well supported, and you're prepared for those placements. And then right at the very end, we put you in a school for quite a period of time, and you produce a graduate teaching performance assignment, which shows that you've met all of the statements, all of the standards, and you're able to teach. And then the good news is that you start your career in a school and you're making a difference, exactly where we started talking about this afternoon. So I'm really looking forward to answering any questions on that. It is the most popular degree. It's the one that has the highest enrolments, and everybody's successful, everybody has a good time. Although, as Robin said, it's a challenging learning to teach. Doing placements and becoming a teacher isn't easy, but it's very rewarding work, some of the best rewarding work you'll do, I believe. Next, Charlotte, please. Louise, yeah.
I think
I was going to leave this for Vaughan.
Yeah, this one's for Vaughan with the
Oh, okay, sorry.
No,
Sorry.
that's okay. I couldn't remember if we had a slide after it, but we do. So we'll go Vaughan. This is your opportunity to shine.
Yep, not a problem. So, hello everyone. My name's Vaughan. I'm the program director of the Health and Physical Education degree. So, similar to Robin's course there around the Bachelor of Education Primary, it's a minimum 4 years up to 9, and it has those 80 days of placement. So you'll do sort of a 20-day block, then a 30-day block, then a 30-day block at different times over the 4 years. And this degree actually qualifies you to teach health and PE from kindergarten right up to grade 12. So you've got the option if you want to teach in a primary school or a high school or even a 11, 12 sort of college. So yeah, a fair bit of variety there. So you'll notice there that the health and PE course is only offered in Launceston. So all of our sort of health and PE focused units, when you're sort of in the gymnasium or you're at the athletics track or you're at the swimming pool, all those are done face to face in Launceston. So if you do want to do this course, you would need to be in Launceston to do those units. Probably the other half of the units can be done online, and they're the more general education units that you would also do in other courses, things around diversity, behaviour management, those skills that all teachers need, regardless of what actual subjects they teach. So, yeah, I guess that key difference about having to actually be in Launceston probably 2 to 3 days a week each semester is certainly something to consider if you do want to do this degree. So as there's not many full-time health and PE teachers in schools, a lot of them have probably some classes of health and PE and then some classes of a different subject. We actually offer all our students in this course what we call a proficiency. So it basically gives you skills in another subject area. So at the moment, those 3 options are maths, science, or HAS, so humanities and social sciences. So when you get to 3rd year, out of the 4 years, you'll start to do some subjects or some units around those learning areas as well. So when you finish your 4 years, you should be confident to teach health and PE and that other subject that you've done your proficiency in. And the only other key difference, I guess, with health and PE being face-to-face in Launceston is that it allows us to actually work with a lot of local schools. And so we often have units where we might start the semester teaching you how to teach PE in a certain way, and then we'll actually go out to local schools and you'll try try those different teaching approaches and different content out in those local schools, and that will be part of your assessment, that sort of face-to-face teaching. So, yeah, that's another thing that probably adds another 15 to 20 days of experience with actual school children before you graduate. So that's something that we certainly plan to continue. Other than that, I think we're pretty similar to the other education courses in terms of the requirements to get in and all those sorts of things. So yeah, happy to answer questions at the end, but I'll pass over to Louise now. Thank you.
So I've just got a relevant question that's just come into the Q&A.
Yep.
Adam's asked that with the HPE unit, could you do all your online units first and then complete the face-to-face components later, or would you have to complete them in a specific order to progress?
A lot of our units don't have prerequisites, so technically you could do that. The key problem you're going to have doing that is timetabling, because obviously our first year units are timetabled not to clash with other first year units. But if you're sort of combining face-to-face units from first year and second year and third year and fourth year, yeah, I think you're going to run into a lot of problems. So you might be able to do little bits of pieces where you do more online one semester and more face-to-face the next semester, but doing all the online ones straight up and then trying to cram the rest face-to-face ones, I think you'll have a lot of timetabling issues. So I'd probably say no.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Okay, the other pathway, if you don't have a degree, is the, can we just go back, Charlotte? Is the what we call the vertical double. So it's when you study a bachelor's degree at the same time as you do the Masters of Teaching. So you do your first year in your bachelor's degree, and then in your second year you start your Masters of Teaching while you continue on with the bachelor's degree. So you have 2 years of doing both the bachelor's and the Masters, and then your fourth year you're focusing in on the Masters and doing just the Masters. So currently we have a vertical double with a Bachelor of Science, a Bachelor of Arts, and the Bachelor of Outdoor and Environmental Education. And we're likely to have the conjoint with the Bachelor of Music soon as well. So that's on the cards. Okay, thanks. Next slide, Charlotte. And if you've already got a degree, well done. You can join us in the Masters of Teaching. So this is a 2-year full-time program where you do, I can't remember how many units, but anyway, it's full-time across two years. We've got a primary stream and a secondary stream. There's some units that cross over both, but there's 2 different streams. You have 60 days or 60 days equivalent out in schools on placement, either in primary schools or secondary schools. And like the other programs, you need to have done the entry requirements and a Landtite. Now, you might not know what Landtite is. That's in teachers in Australia need to be in the top 30% for literacy and numeracy. So it's a test to make sure that you're reaching that top 30% in literacy and numeracy. And you can do that in your first year or early on when you join us. So that's the guts of the Masters of Teaching, but feel free to ask me any questions if you have any as we go along. Over to you, Charlotte.
Thank you. I think the only thing I'd add there is that, unless it's changed, and you can correct me if I'm wrong with Louise, if you do the arts, let's say arts degree and then Master of Teaching, you'd need 1 major or teaching specialisation for primary, but you need 2 teaching areas from your undergraduate degree for secondary teaching. Is that still the case? That hasn't changed?
It hasn't changed yet. So yes, currently you need to have to join us in the primary program, you need to have at least a year's worth of study in a curriculum area. And yeah, so your degree needs to align with the schooling sector. And in secondary, you need to have a major in a teaching area and a minor in a second.
You can check on the course page on the website how your previous studies match up with the teaching areas that we offer as well. Beautiful. All right, we'll move on to placement information. Who would like to cover this off?
Yeah, I will. Okay.
Thanks, Robin.
In Tasmania, this is about placement. Yeah. This is a question that people coming into teacher education become quite anxious about and worried about. I always say you can bet your bottom dollar you'll have a great placement up the road in the school of your choice, and you can also be pretty confident you'll have one a long way from home that's not a school you would want to go to. So if you go into it that kind of open philosophy, you'll be okay. You can give a preference, we take that on board, but of course we have to negotiate with the schools that they can accommodate a student, that they can find time and they've got somebody for you to work with. So we find though, and I've been doing this for many years with I don't know how many thousands of students placement, I can almost count on one hand students that were very unhappy with their placement. It usually works out fine. Can I do placement part-time? Always a question. No, we're meeting the AITSL standards and that it requires 5 days a week and the weeks in a row. Sometimes we can be flexible around that on individual needs, but if you're working part-time, sometimes people are working full-time doing this course, you need to be able to take leave, take annual leave from your part-time work and be totally focused on that placement. And furthermore, you actually need total focus to get through the placement. You know, you're in there, you don't come to school. I love telling this part of the story, so forgive me, my other panelists. We often think that teachers just turn up at school when we turned up when we were at school and went home when the bell went. It's quite different than that, and you'll see that. You need to turn up when the teachers turn up, often quite early in the morning for often before school activities, and you're staying back later in the afternoon, and then probably once a week you're staying back for meetings, which might be till 5 o'clock. So you really have to have that full-time focus. Can I do it where I work? That's a really complex question. And yes, occasionally you can. This is when people might be working as teacher aides, but we don't really like, or it's not best for you to do all of your placement in the same school that you work. Finding other places to work is a really good thing. And will I get paid? Now, hopefully one of my other panelists will be up to date on this. Following COVID, there was a big, you might have followed it in the media, there was a bit of a to-do about what became termed as placement poverty. I just pointed out, number 2, that you can't really work while you're on placement, and often independent students living away from home have rent to pay and food to put on the table, and the federal government kind of responded to that in a really positive way and said, yes, we're looking at funding placements. But I'm unsure of the current situation. Anybody know if that's gone ahead, those funded placements?
I believe it starts in July this year and it's means tested. But beyond that, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's supposed to start this year. I think it was sort of 300 and something a week, but yeah, it is means tested. So yeah, you might end up with less depending on how much you're earning.
Yeah, but it's a great outcome and it's a great show of solidarity by the federal government that recognising that there is something called poverty placement. It also works for nursing placements and other kinds of professional placements. So I think I've covered off everything on that slide. Charlotte?
Wonderful. Thank you. So we've had a few questions come in the Q&A already, so please do put more in if you have more questions. But I'll just move on to a little bit more of the admin of the courses. So now this information on the page is for domestic students. So I will touch on that briefly, but for domestic students, the price of your degree is based on the individual cost of the units you study. So each unit or little subject that you do incurs a cost. Commonwealth supported places for domestic students within the Bachelor of Education, which means that the fees are subsidised and Australian citizens can then defer their remaining payment to a HEX loan if that's something that they wish to do. Now, the good thing is that education falls into band 1. So this is the 2024 fees that we have got on the screen. They do change incrementally year to year, but you'd be looking at about $4,500 for a full year of full-time study. So if you are part-time it would be reduced, but the cost would be roughly the same over the duration of the degree because you are still doing the same amounts of units. So for a 4-year degree, you'd be looking at 4 times that. So somewhere between $16,000 to $20,000 would be the full cost of the education degree for a domestic student. Now, I don't have the costing in front of me, but Tweet or Tanya, I'm not sure if you know what the rough cost for international students would be. Feel free to jump in or type it in the chat, but they are actually listed a lot clearer on the website for international students because it's generally a set amount. So I'll have a look at that for you. But yeah, so
it's generally on the course and unit handbook page. If you click on the international student tab, it'll be there. And as you said, it's quite it's one set fee, annual fee.
Yeah. So the good thing about with the domestic fee structures is you're paying for what you study, so you're invoiced per semester. So if you only did 1 semester of study and then withdrew for any reason, what remains on your HECS is what you studied. You're not paying upfront for the remainder of your degree. So it tends to then, once you're earning over about 54,000, that's when it starts to come out, and it comes out in tax. So you're not having to make manual payments unless you really want to. So it is manageable. But what is the process to get into a Bachelor of Education? So it's all done online directly through our website. You do not need to apply using a state admission centre such as BTAC, QTAC, UAC, all the rest. We are the only university in the state of Tasmania, so we can manage all of our own applications in-house. So you apply online. There is a portal for domestic students and a portal for international students. The process looks a little bit different, but basically we want to know who you are, what you've studied before or what your work and life experience is, and what you want to study. And it is quite a simple application process. So depending on whether you are applying as an adult learner or as a school leaver, you receive an offer in, can be about 2 weeks, can be up to 6 weeks, depending on the workload of our admissions team, what time of year you've chosen to apply. International do have set sort of timeframes that they look for their applications as well. If you're currently a Year 12 student, you can apply through the school's recommendation program and get an early offer, or you can wait to get your ATAR in December and you'd find out then. So when we're looking at your eligibility for these courses, you might have seen on our course pages, you can get an offer based on Year 12 or previous unit TAFE study or 1 unit of undergraduate study, or there's a few different options. We will assess you on your highest level of study. So that's what we're caring about, that you're meeting that standard. So if you completed Year 12 6 years ago, but you then went and did a certificate for at TAFE, we're going to be looking at your entry based on that certificate for, or perhaps a course you've done at university, whether that be another degree, one of the undergraduate certificates that Robin mentioned earlier, or a pathway such as the Diploma of University Studies. So that's what you're going to be putting into your application and what your offer will be assessed against. It is also compulsory to complete the NACAT, so that's the Non-Academic Capability Assessment Test. So you have to do that before you can enroll, which means you can get an offer if you haven't completed that test, but your offer will be conditional on you needing to complete it. And once you've completed it, you can then begin to enroll in your units. So that is done through a third party or done online as well. And it is 2 short answer questions that essentially look at, why do you want to be a teacher? What are your reasons and passions for teaching? And why did you choose this area of study? So it's not something you have to study for, but you do have a short to medium response that you need to put out. So once you've got your offer, you've accepted it and you've done your NACAT, you begin to enroll your unit. And there is lots of support and guidance to help you through all of that. It can be a bit of an overwhelming process if you haven't done it before. We have support over the phone. You can book appointments for support to help with enrolment, or you can pop into any of the libraries. We have our team Monday to Friday in the libraries who can help with enrolment as well. So if you're a face-to-face support person, you can do that as well. And then finally, of course, there are scholarships across the board that are open for anyone to apply for. You can apply for as many scholarships as you like. Scholarships are applied for during a specific time period. So there is an opening and a closing date. You do need to meet those deadlines for the following year. And there's hundreds of scholarships on offer. So we do recommend that you apply for any and all that you're eligible. And then if you are eligible and you are awarded that scholarship, that may be a cash in hand or a grant, or it might be some sort of reduction in your fees as well. So there are scholarships for both international and domestic students. Before we jump into the Q&A, I might just hand over to Twee and Tanya and just check if there was anything specific that we might have missed from an international standpoint that you think it's important to mention here.
Yeah, I just want to say that if students want to do, you may say on our website that we do have the Master of Educations too. It's a fully online courses, but it's not leading to become teacher in Australia. So if you want to become a teacher, you either choose the Bachelor of Education Primary or the Master of Teaching, which has specialization for you to do primary or secondary. And I also want to note that the graduate certificate in early childhood is not for international students. You will choose the Bachelor of Education primaries only. At the moment, international students do need to provide IELTS overall 7.5, with listening and speaking no band less than 8, and writing and reading no band less than 7, because some students may ask, like, it is possible to submit like PTE or TOEFL. So it's not, they are not accepted for entry to education teaching courses. We do have 25% scholarship for the whole duration of the course. Depends on your previous qualification. It's merit-based scholarship, and it will be auto-assessed by our admission team. So the best way is just appoint an agent in your country, and then log your application to be assessed. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Lovely. Well, our Q&A is clear at the moment, so there's no questions in there. So I might leave it open just for a couple of minutes to see if there's any final questions. So we won't have, everyone will stay on mute. So if you do have a question, pop it in the chat, but we'll wait around to see if any come in. But thank you so much to Robin, Louise and Vaughan for coming along to speak about your courses, and of course Tanya and Twee for your expertise in the international space. It's really appreciated. And thank you to everyone who came along tonight. I hope that there's no questions means that we've answered all your questions, and you're feeling a bit more formed about these courses that we offer in education and teaching here at UTAS. Thank you very much. So I'll leave it open for a little bit, but yeah, if there's any questions. Otherwise, thank you very much and have a lovely evening.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Thanks, guys.